The biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Can we just let Alex Kirry sing this song right now? Go ahead.
No, I don't know
Give
any
it a shot.
I don't know most of the words.
You don't need to know the lyrics. I don't know the lyrics
right,
either.
Here we go.
Can you hear any lyrics right now?
You lied to me. Yeah, you lied to me. That's what
Little Bee Gees going on there.
I know.
You Barry Gibb?
Yeah, I can be. I got that.
Pucking it up on the Barry Gibb talk show. Talking about politics. There we go. Give me that Barry Gibb.
What I do is I sneak in a ton of cuss words when I don't know the words. It's good.
That's what Bad Bunny did at the Super Bowl. Yeah. None of us know because we couldn't understand anything. Naples would have to help us out. Well, you know Spanish.
I do. And
did he clean it up for the Super Bowl?
He kept it clean. The themes still weren't great.
The themes?
The themes are mostly about the womanizing.
Okay. Well, at least he didn't go pantsless like Donald Duck.
But hey, love is love, and
speaking of themes,
the best replacement of hate is love, et cetera, et cetera. Like a lot of love from Bad Bunny exclusively. All right, ladies. There you go. Yes, we're jumping in on this part of the program here. The double luge is still going on. I don't know what to tell you, everybody. I don't know. Shield your kids' eyes from it, but it's on TV right now.
In the middle of the day.
I know. The U.S. is doing.
Shame.
The U.S. is doing. Hey, I will encourage you to watch a lot going on tonight with the primetime Olympics because there's a lot of good stuff happening today. Good day for Team USA, man. I'm telling you. Jumping into the program right now. We're kicking off the hour as we always do. It's the cut, top of the show here. Mitch Harper, our BYU insider for KSLSports.com. Let's get it right now.
It's time to get the inside info on BYU with Cougar insider Mitch Harper of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. That's right. It's that time of the show for us to bring in our guy, Mitch Harper. Mitch, it's been a rough couple of weeks for the Cougs on the basketball court, but a much-needed win last night in Waco at Baylor. I could we're watching this thing as soon as it tipped off in the studio here, and Baylor smelled blood in the water. They went right after them, and BYU had its signature down double digits in the first half. But unlike some of the other moments that they've had recently, they whittled that thing down before the half, and then it wasn't the comeback story the entire second half for BYU. How big of a deal was it for them to not just get that win, but for the Big Three to have 81 combined points down there at Baylor?
It was important just to get back in that win column because I think that now with the schedule, how it's set up, they probably should get a second straight win this Saturday against Colorado, and then I think it sets up an opportunity next week, a week from now, to go into Tucson and just play loose and play comfortable and just try to be as open-minded to an upset as you possibly can be going against Arizona. So it was needed. And I think the defense is still an issue for this BYU team, but you got some valuable contributions from Kennard Davis, who gave you some a nice offensive rebound with an and one late in that game. Hadim Boop off the bench. I thought his defense was something of note in that game, and he got 10 rebounds. So you got some contributions along with the Big Three. And I think BYU just reminded all of us that this is a team that, even though they're sliding a little bit after facing that gauntlet of a stretch in the Big 12, they still will be a tough out for anyone that they face. If they're a 6-11, seed, a 6 seed, that 3 seed, whoever that is, probably won't want to face an AJ DeBonsa and Richie Saunders and Rob Wright, because the firepower of this group, having 3 guys that can get you any 80 points on any night, that's something that very few, if any, can boast in this college basketball landscape this season. So it was a critical win for this team.
Good, solid win for BYU, a win they had to have in a tough place to play. It's not easy to go win at Baylor. I don't care what year it is. That was a good win. And your Big Three score 81 points. But, Mitch, my concern is 81 of your 99 points come from 3 guys. You're still not seeing the production that you're going to need from multiple guys other than those 3. How concerning is that moving forward? Is that sustainable?
It's definitely concerning, but, it's February 11th, and that's just what it is with this BYU team. It's going to be the big three. They need to score at least 75 points or more every single night. And on top of that, we're probably looking at a world where AJ DeBonsa and Rob Wright have to play all 40 minutes as they did last night.
Wow.
Because the bench is non-existent for this BYU team. I think Hadim Boop, again, can be someone that you can turn to consistently. I think that Kennard Davis, if he can give you the contributions that he did last night, that's valuable because he's always going to get open looks. And if he can knock down 2 or 3 3-pointers per game, that would be huge for BYU. But you go through this bench, I think Bidu Ahmed, the former G League player, I thought last night wasn't the right matchup, and I think that's what helped BYU with Boop coming off the bench. Thought it was a good matchup for him, but I think Bidu, at times, he can be a good rim protector in relief of Keba Keita. Mihailo Boskovic, he's always willing to fire up a three, but outside of that, there's just nothing that you can really count on night after night from this bench. It's the top three, the big three, and then you just hope that, some of the other guys perform. But I just think that's what it is with this team. And the thing is that a lot of college basketball teams, with their roster and revenue sharing, you're kind of seeing a lot of teams, Texas Tech, Houston, Baylor, they're pretty much playing 6 or 7-man rotations, if that, because they allocated a lot of resources to the top end of their roster, and BYU is in that same boat. You're going to go with the guys that you're paid the premium for, and that's AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, and Rob Wright. They got to carry you, and they got to stay healthy, and that's the key because there's still a lot of tough games ahead. But I just think that's kind of what it is for this BYU team. You can't expect much from this bench at this point.
I don't mean to totally single him out, but I think it's just that bigger problem of the defensive side of things. Keba Keita is one of those guys that at the beginning of the year had that, he's on the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year watch list. And, now I think about a game last night, it seems to be kind of what we've seen out of this team. I just don't know where the defense has gone or the comfortability. It just looks like he's not as comfortable and as loose playing Keba Keita right now. I don't know where that production has gone. And so not even from the offensive side, he's good to give you 8-10 points a game usually. And he'll rebound, but he hasn't been doing much of either. And then the blocks don't really come at the pace that they used to come for him. So what's Keba Keita's deal this year?
It has been a little bit concerning the past few games, especially that Houston game where he was 1 of 6 from the field, because he's one of the all-time best field goal shooters in BYU history, because when he puts up a shot, it's going to be a high percentage look and it's always around the rim. I think one of the big things too with Keba Keita's maybe not as great of an impact, at least in the offensive end and at times defensively. Offensively, the spacing sometimes isn't as open as what we saw last year with Yegor Dioman. This year, Rob Wright's a paint touching guard where he's going to slither into the paint and he's going to kind of occupy that space. You're not seeing as many alley-oops like you saw with Yegor Dioman or Dallin Hall a season ago to Keba Keita. We haven't seen that as often. And then Keita too, he had an injury earlier in the year. He had some illnesses. It's been some up and down availability for him. But he's got to get right because when you talk about the rim protection, that's his strength. And he had a few blocks last night, but it's got to go to a higher level, I think, against the great teams, because right now BYU's 6 wins against Big 12 competition, they've all come against teams that are in the bottom 9 of the league. And, 3 of those wins are against the bottom 2 teams in Utah and Kansas State. So there's not a signature win yet. Last night was the first quad 1 victory in 2 months since the victory over Clemson. But, Keba Keita's got to be important for this BYU team, because when he brings that intensity on the defensive end, it just does so much for this BYU team, because you can't ask AJ for what he gives every single night on the offensive end. There's going to be a little bit of sacrificing on the defensive side. And that's where Keba Keita can pick up the slack. A 3-and-D guy like a Kennard Davis picks up the slack on the defensive side, because so much is asked on the offensive end from BYU's big 3, in particular AJ DeBonsa.
Rob Wright had a great night last night in his return to Baylor. I know that was a big night for him. I know there was a lot of energy in that building directed towards him. How do you think he handled all that, and what did he say after the game about it?
It was his best game as a BYU player, because This BYU team in Big 12 play, they've turned the ball over a lot. You go back a week ago against Oklahoma State, he and A.J. DeBonsa combined for 10 turnovers between the two of them. Rob had 5 and A.J. had 5. Last night against Baylor, only 2 turnovers, one of which was late. They kind of kept Baylor a little bit within striking distance, but I thought he had great composure and I thought great decision-making. Now, Baylor's not great at generating turnovers, but I thought that, Rob Wright did a good job of taking care of the basketball, and he was efficient too, and he was attacking and getting to the hoop because, again, that's where he is at his best, getting into the paint, attacking the rim, and finishing. He's had so many shots around the rim this year that just miss. I'd have to go and count the missed layups or missed bunnies from Rob Wright. There's been many where his scoring totals could be a lot higher this season, but he was efficient last night, and I got to think that playing his former program, going up against Scott Drew, who said leading up to that game, yeah, players come and go, but you wish they wouldn't leave after signing a contract. Scott Drew put that out there. There was probably a little bit extra intensity. Rob Wright's a man of few words in these post-game pressers, and he kind of kept that calling card in this one. But even Kevin Young said that the Baylor fans were pretty classy, as he put it. And that's maybe a low bar when having a BYU game, considering BYU walks into some buzzsaws when it comes to chance. But Baylor fans were pretty classy, even to the point where you heard a lot of BYU fans making their presence felt in that gym that only holds 7,500. So it was a good night all around, I think, for BYU.
Well, Baylor fans just didn't want to get fined.
They're all, you guys. I love how there's like a thing at every game now. They like have somebody. It was like some coaches, it was some like athletic directors. Now they're like trying to bring back like celebrities that are like from those schools. And I just want to remind everybody, when BYU comes here, let's not embarrass ourselves. All right, let's stand up for Baylor. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what is going on?
Every team has a celebrity BYU apologist that has to say something before the game. Please don't say anything bad about the LDS Church.
You cannot. You
don't want to get fined tonight.
It's like every other. I would imagine that people are like wondering after every game, Mitch, they're like, I wonder if Mitch is going to write a blank BYU article after this one, because I think I heard it. I think I may have heard it. And it's like, oh, not another one. All right. Facing the team right now is maybe some, they got this Colorado game to maybe get right a little bit. And they do. The rest of conference play, I mean, none of these games are going to be gimmies or easy. A lot of them have a lot of folks who are ranked, and it's still going to be difficult. How can they, obviously winning at Arizona is like, that's a tall ask. But what about the ones that along the way get them to the spot where people go, okay, now they're back to what we think is a team that could be a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 team?
I think BYU could finish 6-1 in the final 7.
Wow.
I think that the game that will be the must win to get a signature victory for BYU is going to be Iowa State. Saw last night Iowa State lost to TCU. Iowa State's kind of been up and down with their offense, and maybe the perfect cure for offensive woes is facing BYU, but I think that BYU can put up a lot of points. And I think, being in the Marriott Center, BYU's had Iowa State's number, whether it was Mark Pope or Kevin Young last year. They swept the Cyclones a season ago in Ames and Kansas City. I think that's a winnable game, even though Iowa State has at times looked really good, and defensively, they're one of the best in the country. There's going to be tough games at West Virginia and Cincinnati. Cincinnati, despite their issues, they're one of the top 10 defenses in college basketball, and then Texas Tech to close out the regular season. But I think there is a path to going 6-1 because 4 of the last 7 are at the Marriott Center. You like that setup. That Arizona game, that's just, to me, an automatic L. I'd be really stunned if they won that game. But I think BYU, if they could go 6-1 somehow, and that's a real optimistic outlook, but I think it could be done, then you're getting into that protected seed territory at the 4 seed line. And I think for BYU, that's critical because if you get into the top 16 seeds, you're not allowing the committee to entertain the dropping a seed line because of no Sunday play. You're protected with one of those seeds where you slide them into Portland as a 4 seed or a 3 seed, whatever that looks like. Whereas if you get outside that top 16, say you're a 5 seed, you might drop to a 6 or a 7 because you got to factor in BYU into the Sunday conversation, and you're not going to give them priority over a 3 seed or a 4 seed. So it's important for BYU to climb the seed lines again. Right now, they're pretty much a 5 or a 6 seed, depending on what brackets you look at. but there's opportunities to get quad one victories. You got 5 quad one games remaining as of now. And I think, outside of the Arizona game, if BYU's big three show up like they did last night, they could take down anyone outside of Arizona remaining on the schedule.
No, you're right. I'm looking at it. I think you're absolutely right. It's not going to be easy, but 6-1 is definitely possible with having Iowa State and Texas Tech at home. It'd be really tough to think that they could win in Tucson against that juggernaut that is Arizona. And 6-1 puts BYU in a really good spot at the end of the season with some quality wins. And it would put A.J. DeBonsa in a really good spot. It's interesting. You have the contrast of Darren Peterson sitting out games while DeBonsa's playing 40 minutes and giving it everything he's got. I think he's earning a lot of respect, not just in the college basketball world, but with the NBA. What is playing like this many minutes doing for him in his future or award consideration? Because it's quite remarkable what he's doing with what's being asked of him with this team.
Well, I think what's been so impressive about AJ, I think that's caught maybe everyone a little bit by surprise. We saw signs of this during his time at Utah Prep, watching many of his games in his one season with them, but he really does want to get his teammates involved. He is willing to pass the ball and pass it at a high level. Last night, he had 7 assists. I mean, he will find the open guy, and he wants to get his teammates involved. Guy's got to knock down shots. I go back to the game at Kansas. He has only 1 assist. That wasn't an issue of him not passing the ball. It was simply guys weren't hitting 3-point shots when he was finding them. AJ will make, his teammates better, and I think there's still a little bit of chemistry being developed with this BYU team. I think the one missing piece for AJ to really get the momentum built for him as maybe I don't say a lock to be a number 1 pick, but to be viewed as the number 1 prospect is for him to have a 36-point game against one of the big dogs in the Big 12, because all these games, 43 against Utah, 36 against Baylor. Yes, it's Baylor and they've got NBA players with Yesufu and Carr, but to have a big game against someone that's viewed as one of the national title contenders. He did it kind of against UConn. It was primarily in the second half where he ended up with 25 points. But again, in the Big 12 play against the biggest teams, he's been kind of controlled a bit against Houston and against Kansas and Arizona. So that's going to be the thing for him, leading BYU to a big victory. I think that's where like an Iowa State, or if he somehow pulled off a massive upset at Arizona and had a big stat line, I think then you're starting to talk about him as a, number 1 guy. Because I think that Kansas game, it was the ultimate prospect matchup. And I think just when Darren Peterson was cooking the way that he was for that 7-minute stretch in the first half, and AJ wasn't responding, I think people made a lot of narrative conclusions in that moment. But AJ has been really tough. I think back to a game against TCU where he takes a hard fall on his right shoulder, and you could tell in that game it was bothering him, yet he didn't come out and he kept playing, and he played the next game with blue tape on that right shoulder against Texas Tech, which coincidentally was his lowest scoring output of 13 points this season. AJ's always there, and he's available, and he's really kind of embraced BYU, which, again, I think for Cougar fans, I think they were thinking a lot of, this 5-star player. BYU's never had a talent like this with so many accolades coming into the program. Will it just be all about him? It really hasn't, even though that he is a massive story every single time he touches the floor. He really is a guy that kind of fits at BYU, as crazy as that sounds, and it's worked quite well. And BYU, though, has got to make a run in the NCAA tournament to really maximize this opportunity to have a generational player like AJ DeBonsa.
Mitch, before we get you out here, I just want to ask you about, we had this discussion yesterday with Jonathan Tavernari about, the top-end talent is unquestionable about how good these guys are at the very top, and the bench, as you alluded to, is not great in comparison. How does KY flip that narrative? Obviously, you just go, well, you recruit a lot of other guys. It's like, it's a little bit easier said than done. So how can he make that work? Because you're working into a time where you're going to see the best player in the history of BYU be here for 1 year and leave. A lot of other names, obviously Richie Saunders not going to be back. So how do they replace top end talent, but also make sure that they don't just have 3 guys every year that are going to be the ones that you hang your hat on?
Well, when you look at next year, I mean, BYU's in the mix for Bruce Branch III, who's viewed as possibly the number 1 draft pick in 2027. He took a visit to BYU, an official visit, a couple weeks ago, and BYU is in the thick of that recruiting battle. And if they got someone like him, you're talking about potentially another AJ type of guy at BYU, and you've got a good stable of young personnel. I think that, some of the misevaluations have happened. I think Kevin Young is still learning about college basketball. I think he even saw that last night when it came to the way that he's choosing to call timeouts. I think he's still learning about going into road venues. You need to be strategic with your timeouts. I think when it comes to learning about college basketball, figuring out ways to build out rosters, and you can't just take the NBA approach to the college game when constructing a rosters. Some of these guys like a Tyler Maruss was viewed to step right in and be a lights out 3-point shooter. That hasn't happened at all. And then they had injuries with a Dawson Baker and Nate Pickens before the season. Those were massive losses that in the moment, I think we thought BYU will be okay because the rest of this bench is going to play out. But those injuries were huge. They do next year get the number one JUCO player in the country and KJ Perry to line up in the backcourt. I think Kevin Young, thing about him is like he'll figure out ways, whatever ends up happening this year with this team, I think he'll adjust and he will find ways to get the personnel necessary to find that sweet spot between a lot of depth. Like last year's team had 11 guys, but they didn't have maybe Richie was a superstar, but they didn't have much after him that you could rely on every single night, which is strange to say considering Yegor was on that team, but he was inconsistent in the college game. This year, it's more just the top three. Finding that happy spot next year will kind of be the challenge for KY, but I'd be pretty confident that he figures that out. And I think he's still kind of learning kind of the ebbs and flows of college basketball. And he's been pretty candid about that too. And as he continues to learn on the job, he'll make the necessary adjustments. I think Kevin Young's the perfect fit at BYU to really identify personnel, build out rosters, and really enhance relationships. Because if you are a promising NBA draft prospect, what he's done with AJ shouldn't deter you. And same with Richie Saunders. The proof of concept is there that he's going to get you to the league. It's just now kind of finding that depth in the future to do that. And they've kind of got some pieces next year that would suggest they should be a little bit deeper, but we shall see.
Mitch Harper, he's our BYU insider for KSLSports.com. Mitch, as always, awesome to have you on. We appreciate it, and we'll chat with you again, man, pretty soon here.
You bet, guys. Take care.
There you go.
Mitch.
Mitch Harper. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I think people, because of the success, isn't it hard when you have such good success that first year and then people go, just do that again. Now you got better players. Do it again better.
Hey, that's how it works. You want those kind of expectations.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Young embraces that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. We have a high payroll. We're only recruiting top 100 guys. So the expectation is going to be that you're competing for a national championship. And what we've seen from BYU recently was not good enough to even be in that conversation. So it was fair to criticize. It was fair to wonder and look at things like, what's going on here? Because this is not the bar that BYU itself set for itself going into the season. When you're the number one player in the country, when you've got Richie Saunders, who's an NBA talent, when you got Rob Wright, who's one of the best point guards in the country, the expectations are high. Here's the problem with college basketball. Even in this era where if you got money, you can go out and get the highest players, you can't pay everybody, and you can't have 8 deep. It's not the NBA. So you're not going to have great bench because there's not a lot of great players out there that want to sit on come off the bench. They're getting paid somewhere else. So it's not just BYU. Like Arizona, and we saw Kansas have depth. How many teams in the country have true depth? Not many. Those teams are competing for a national championship. Yeah. So that's where we've been a little critical of BYU, but BYU's got the same problem that 98% of all college basketball teams have.
It's just it is wild to see. It's wild to see that you can have all this talent assembled on one floor. I mean, you had the same thought I did, which was, you get another 36 from AJ. You get 30 from Rob Wright, which is the best he's ever had. And then you
barely win on the road against a team that's in the bottom third of the league right now as far as the standings go.
And what did Richie have? He had 15 or something like that? Yeah. So
81 of 99 points scored by 3 guys. I think it's not a lot to ask like a Kebaketa to get at least 8 or 10 or some of those guys he talked about off the bench. Somebody's got to step up.
1 rebound, by the way, last night for Kebaketa.
He's got to be better. He was very key last year.
Yeah.
He has been missing a lot this year.
Yeah. We'll take a break. We'll come back when we do. have a couple things going. I've got some tickets to give away for you because it is a Win Ticket Wednesday. We're also going to listen to some audio of the people who are whining across the National Basketball Association writers. All the people who are so upset at the Jazz. I can't believe the Jazz are doing this crazy thing. We'll talk about that next. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. I have some audio for you to listen to in just a little while. It's going to be of Jaren Jackson Jr. and the media availability you've had. Of course, it took a few days, but they're finally playing basketball here in the state of Utah over here at Delta Center. Tonight it's going to be against the Sacramento Kings, who are in the lead for the worst team in the Western Conference, but maybe in the entire league.
They stink.
Yeah. Okay. And they're playing the Jazz tonight.
Like cabbage.
You're going to have the cabbage has a stink to it, but it tastes good. I like cabbage.
We'll agree to disagree on that.
Okay. But I also have some other audio, and that is more complaining across the board. The Utah Jazz have been decided on by the national media for everyone to make an example of.
Specifically at ESPN. Right?
It's very weird.
Are you seeing anybody outside of ESPN really going all in on the Jazz? Why is it ESPN?
Yeah. We played this one with Bobby Marks yesterday, and it obviously got a lot of play, but this is what the one yesterday that kind of kicked off everything was from him.
I think what Utah is doing right now is messing around with the integrity of the NBA. The ability to sit players, starters, in the fourth quarter, to not call timeouts in the fourth quarter. Orlando won the game on Saturday because they basically rested players, and it backfired on them last night. So I think if you're the league, you're looking at it. All right, can we do some gimmicks? Can we alter protections and eliminate protections as far as picks? Or can we put the hammer down?
Yeah, put the hammer down. Oh, yeah.
Just
Bring
on
the
one
hammer
team,
down.
not the other 10 that are doing the same stuff?
Bring the hammer
Actually,
down.
worse, they're not even playing their guys?
I think Adam Silver hears that and kind of goes, oh, gosh.
Ugh.
Like the league, by the way, the league does not think it's like Adam Silver's not sitting there going, the integrity's been compromised by the league. They made the rules. They made the rules. And say what you will about how things went with the draft lottery last year. We watched that thing, and I don't care what you say about it and how weird the whole thing went down. It's a small jump into NBA, it's pub. You know what I mean? All of it is made for television, by the way. It's not like the draft lottery is not going to get a ton of ratings, but you know what it is? We watched the heck out of that thing when it was going on, and it was like watching one of your teams get beat in a massive upset, where you're like, jaw on the floor, cannot believe that just happened. And this is what the NBA has set up. I know that they don't love it. By the way, there are 32 teams in the league, and not all of them are going to be...
There's 30, but yeah.
Or 30 teams in the league. Not all of them are going to be competitive night to night, or week to week, or year to year. And it's unfortunate, but all 30 teams are not going to win this thing. In fact, you're going to get most of them at the very bottom who are going to say, how can we get better? And the NBA has made it clear. There are a handful of ways that you can get better. And the league overall, I think, does a really good job of making there different ways for you to be able to build a roster, to be able to make yourself. The league wants the Jazz to become competitive. And by the way, more than anybody, the Jazz want to make themselves competitive. Okay?
And they've paid their dues. They've had some really rough years.
Okay. Here's Wendy, because we wouldn't be following the narrative here at the big ESPN without Wendy getting involved and also throwing his disgust Utah's way.
It's not just Utah. Utah is being the most egregious of it, but there are multiple teams that are trading for players and immediately saying that they're injured and keeping them out for long periods of time. It's not just Utah using starters and then shutting them down. What Utah has done has been more egregious because they've had players who have been playing very well, and then they bench them for the fourth quarter. Their coach, as Bobby mentioned, Will Hardy, will sometimes literally just put his hands in his pockets and not call timeouts as the team gets steamrolled over. And that's where the transition has happened. Tanking historically historically has been done on the inactive list. The players in the games are always playing to win, and once a player is in on the active list, you rarely see them, not go full out. What's happening here is that they're putting the reins on players who are active in games, and that's the next step. And something very interesting happened yesterday. It's an important game in the tanking standings. Tonight, Utah is playing Sacramento. These are two teams that are vying to get one of those top picks. And initially, when the Jazz put out their injury report yesterday, they listed Lauri Markkanen, who has barely been playing, out for rest. And then an hour or so later, they changed their injury report and said he's actually not going to rest, he's going to play. So what happened there? Did something happen behind the scenes? We'll see. Adam Silver will address the media, and I promise you will address these questions this week at All-Star Weekend. But I'm going to say you can't put rules in that don't exist, and the Jazz are following the rules. They are activating healthy players and playing them, and they're just not playing them all out. So I don't think anything can be done in the next 10 minutes that's going to affect it. But something got the Jazz to make Lauri Markkanen active yesterday. I'm interested to find out more about that.
Oh, yeah. Ask the question. Adam Silver, what happened with Lauri Markkanen 7 days ago when he was inactive and listed as active again? What happened? Come on. Oh, yeah, they're going to ask him the tough questions. They're going to ask the commissioner the tough questions. When did tanking start, JJ? Like, how long has it been going on?
For 40 years.
Okay.
So 1984. Really good draft class. Do you know who was in that 1984 draft class?
Jordan, Dominique.
You missed the number one pick.
Oh,
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
In 1984, nobody knew Michael Jordan was going to be Michael Jordan, but everybody wanted Hakeem Olajuwon, including the Houston Rockets. Where did Hakeem Olajuwon play his college basketball?
Yeah, down at
Houston.
Slamma-Jamma.
Houston did everything they could, and Houston was a good team in the 80s, remember? They were in the finals in 1980, I believe. They got back to the finals in 86 after they paired Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon together.
Bad.
Remember the Twin Towers?
Not bad.
Houston tanked in 1983-84 season to get Hakeem Olajuwon, and they did it. They had the worst record, and they got it. The NBA is like, we got to stop this, so we're going to do this different. We're going to have a lottery. And then 1985, the lottery started. Right out of the gate, you ever heard of the frozen envelope with the New York Knicks? The Knicks getting Patrick Ewing, the marquee franchise in the biggest city in the country getting Patrick Ewing.
Georgetown's,
There has been conspiracy theories and problems tied to this process ever since then. Why? Because one player makes all the difference, and all 30 teams want that star guy. What did the Spurs do for both David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Victor Wembanyama? The Spurs, what did they do? They deliberately tanked in those seasons to get those players, and it worked out for them. And everyone else is watching what the Spurs did, and that's how we do it.
So why is he saying that it's so much more egregious with Utah doing it?
I have no idea. Here, do you want to talk about egregious? Here's egregious. The Washington Wizards go out and trade for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Both are healthy enough to play. Have they played a minute for the Wizards yet? No. Why? Why have those two star players, not played? At least the Jazz are rolling out Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen and Keontae George before he sprained his ankle for 3 quarters. At least the fans are getting 3 quarters of these great players. The Wizards aren't even rolling out their guys at all.
Yeah.
The Pacers just got Ivica Zubac at the trade deadline. A sneaky great move. For next year, you think he's going to play this year? Absolutely not. They're trying to tank. Do you know who the Kings have on their roster? Domantas Sabonis. Who else is out tonight?
Is he active tonight?
Who else is out tonight? And how many of them really hurt?
Yeah,
okay?
on a 12-win team.
BS.
Yeah.
All right, and why are you picking on the Jazz? The Jazz are egregious?
He just kept saying the most.
The
but
Jazz
that's the most
are
egregious.
at least the Jazz are playing their guys. At least the people that go to watch and pay to watch these games are getting 3 quarters of the Jazz best lineup. The Jazz are tanking. Yes, absolutely. Does that suck? Absolutely. Are the Jazz doing anything wrong? No, because this is how the league has operated for 40 years. At no time has anybody who runs that league done anything to change it. Not one solution that's worked. In fact, it's been harder to tank lately because in the past, the Jazz would have had a 20% chance to win last year's lottery. They didn't have any more close to those odds, even though they had the worst record in the league. and they end up 5th. Even that's not enough to discourage these teams from tanking. Why? Because it's so important to at least have a chance to get the best player in a generational draft. And guess what we have in 2026? A generational draft. A.J. DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and the list doesn't stop there. Caleb Wilson, the Wagler kid from Illinois, that Mikel Brown Jr. kid at Louisville went for 45 the other night.
Yep.
This draft is stacked. That's why there's 8 to 10 teams trying to tank, because they don't even care about getting the number 1 pick this year. Last year was all about number 1. It was all about flag. This year it's about 8 or 9 guys. And the Jazz have to keep that pick. They have to, because they don't want to lose it to the Thunder, because they want to be in the mix. Now it's top 8 protected, but even then they want to keep it, because that's how good this draft is. Yep. And the Jazz are doing what any smart team would. So stop picking on the Jazz. Everybody's doing it. Start picking on the Wizards, who have 2 All-Stars and they're not playing them a minute. That's egregious.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We have a top 10. It's Winter Olympics related. I'll say that. More to go around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing. When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Hey, by the way, the KSL Sports Zone, as always, is honoring people who make that sports youth impact in their communities. The way we do it is you nominate that youth sports volunteer at kslsports.com/contests for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week program. And then every Thursday we read off those winners. We give them love on social media. And then we, of course, throw their way $250 to Beehive Meals. So there you go. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week program. So just kslsports.com/contests and go nominate somebody today. By the way, speaking of winning some stuff, how about caller number 12 right now on a Win Ticket Wednesday to win a pair of tickets to Brian Regan coming up this Saturday at Delta Center. Yes, Saturday is February 14th. February 14th, of course, is Valentine's Day. Win some tickets right now. You'll be the hero. 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE, or you can get those tickets at SeatGeek.com. JJ, quick top 10. This is one I was going to try to attempt to make you roll out for yourself, but it's just too difficult of a category. And so,
wow,
yes,
really?
It's too difficult of a category.
Didn't think I was up to the challenge, huh?
Well, it's not that. It's we don't have time to go through.
Am I struggling so bad? You're like trying to dumb this down a little bit?
No. Because nobody in their right minds would know. Some of these you'd know, but it's just trying to pair together a top 10. And it's interesting. So here we go. A top 10 that is basically just going to be an education. Okay.
All right.
These are the top 10 Winter Olympic sports that do not exist anymore. Okay.
Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, the funny thing about these are some of them are, we have versions of it, but here we go. You ready for this? I actually asked somebody this the other day, and I wonder why they don't do it anymore. And we actually, I think, thought about it over the airways as well. But dog sled racing. What's going on here?
Right. No Iditarod.
No Iditarod. It would be cool. And by the way, you know what people love? The freaking dogs, man.
Absolutely. Seems like a no-brainer.
And those guys, you think about the stories that Matt Gephardt would be rolling out with the sad music of, and that's when they lost the first puppy in the litter. And then it's like you have the story of I didn't want to go.
Does that happen in the Iditarod?
No, and I'm
Dogs
just saying.
dying?
No. But tragedy strikes the kennel, and then they come back and win silver.
Tragedy strikes the kennel. What a comeback story for the ages.
Okay, my sister's family was watching the Olympics with us the other day, and my niece was like, "Why does everybody's parent had to die before we kind of respect that they're like athletes anymore?" I'm like, I get it. We have to make these.
It's competitive.
We have to make these.
You've got to have a sad story in order to make it.
Yes, that's exactly right. So dog sled racing, ski ballet, which actually lasted 3 Olympics.
Miss it.
You don't like it?
Yeah, miss it.
Bandy. Any idea what bandy is?
No idea.
Okay.
Never would have got that.
Okay, it is basically ice hockey, but on snow, like on packed down snow.
That's dumb.
So you're not skating; you're running around with like regular
On snowshoes or something?
some kind of a no. It's
That's
it's
dumb.
something that runs around on snow.
How about snowshoeing?
But you're hitting. It's like field hockey, but with a ball and on top of snow
Snowshoeing?
with a ball.
No, is it snowshoeing on the list?
Snowshoeing is on the list. Yeah,
Okay.
snowshoeing.
You don't
used
see
to,
that anymore.
But it actually never was officially an event. It was a
Oh.
demonstration event back in the 1932, and I guess it didn't even make it that far after everything was said
It's
and done.
dumb.
I don't know what this is. Ice stock sport, which is Bavarian curling, which didn't outlast the real curling.
Wow.
So there you go. Skijoring, we talked about. You know what
Yes.
skijoring actually
Yes.
is, though?
Explain.
It's athletes being skied by or being on skis being pulled by horses. We need this.
Sounds like something we used to do in Star Valley, Wyoming.
I was gonna say. They said pulled by horses or dogs. I was like, these are some amazing dogs.
Or trucks.
Now this one sounds like a cool event. Military patrol.
That was an event.
Yeah. Precursor to
Help me
biathlon.
understand that.
Yeah, precursor to biathlon. It was skiing and rifle shooting, but it also had snow mountaineering. That's intense.
That sounds awful.
It's terrible. Like the amount of cardio that these guys do just for like the biathlon and for the cross country skiing, crazy.
Anything on a snowmobile that used to take place.
Oh, now that would be cool. And then the winter pentathlon. Any of the downhill?
Is there 5 events
There
you
is
put together that
downhill,
you would do?
but again, amazing. Downhill skiing, cross country skiing.
Oh my gosh.
Are you ready for this one? Ice fencing.
Whoa.
Fencing on the ice might be the most bad A thing I've
Fencing
ever
on
heard.
the ice?
Yeah. Shooting and then horse riding.
Dang.
So, yeah, those are events that no longer
I'm
exist.
kind of curious to watch
I
that.
actually would like to see that one. And
Sounds
again,
like an action movie or
also
something.
sounds expensive. Like get the horse out, get the fencing equipment
Sure.
out, get the guns out. All right.
That's wild.
Okay. There's your events. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. More to go around the corner. We'll get you ready for Jazz basketball coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. So we're going to talk a lot of Jazz. You'll be able to hear, if you haven't, our first conversations, our first being able to hear from the media from Jaren Jackson Jr. as he's here in Utah now. So stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.